Good afternoon, everyone. Happy Thursday. Happy New Year and a strong 2026 to you all. I'm really excited to do this fireside chat with Avishkar today. We'll make a more formal introduction as folks come in. Love to see you on camera if possible. Akash, it's good to see you in here. Dustin, it's good to see you. And Candy, where
Hi,
are you from?
Candy.
Yeah, are you
I, I'm a
a
Honeywell
Honeywell?
future
Okay.
shaper. I know Avishka so well. I got to be here to be his support. So proud of you. Thank
I
you.
brought some support. Thank you, Candy.
That's right.
Yes,
That's right. Well, it's delightful to see you all. Like I said, I hope you had a wonderful holiday season with your family and friends. And a little bit of respite, as we hit, 2026, and all of our initiatives that we're doing. There's a lot of work that's happening in SASE Professional as we move into, March, April, especially. And I'll share a little bit of that towards the end of this fireside chat. And Akash, it's good to see you, sir.
Good to see
Hey,
you as
Josh.
well, Clarence, and
Yeah,
everybody. Happy New
absolutely.
Year.
Happy
Happy
New
New
Year.
Year. Hope all is well.
All is
Randolph,
well.
it's good to see you, sir. I'm not familiar with your organization. You want to chime in real quick?
Yeah, we're part of GE Vernova. We're
Ah,
a spin-off of the General Electric company, and part of our ERG group, Employee Research Group, resources. The They share these
mhm,
webinars and casting with us. So
mhm.
I thought this sounded an interesting topic. We'd love to learn all about what's being offered today. So thank you for
Absolutely.
letting
Yeah.
us join.
Well, it's always pleased. I have the pleasure of working with some of the Vernova folks, particularly within their Asian ERG group.
Hmm.
And so, when we were
Yep.
at the STEM Connect conference this past October, we had the pleasure of doing a presentation at their campus right
Hmm.
outside Pittsburgh. So that was really nice.
Yep. And
Yeah, yeah.
that's the ERG group that forwarded this to. I'm part of the Ally Network,
Okay,
so
yeah,
just
awesome.
always curious to see what's out there and how do we learn how to work together. So thanks
Fantastic.
for having us.
Yeah. Oh, Jim Lee. Hello, sir. How are you?
Hello, good to see y'all.
Hey, you know
Hey,
what?
Jim.
Actually, I'm trying to do like probably four things or too many things at once. So I'm going to make you a co-host as well.
Okay.
You all get this, right? But really excited. Vish Cars has been a huge supporter of SACE over the years. He was so generous to, accept my invitation or my ask to one of the things that we're doing this year, obviously we're gonna we're resetting our monthly webinars and our pen network in January, and we'll continue those this year. But in addition to just amazing content, our trainers, various learning and development topics that I'm working with Jim Lee, I also wanted to splice in, probably on a quarterly basis, some personal interest stories. Getting to know some of our fellow STEM community members. And Vishkar was so generous late last year to say absolutely be happy to. So I wanted to introduce Avishkar really briefly. We're going to get going on this. I do have some slides that I'll screen share, so I'll juggle that as well. But Avishkar is the director. Oh, you know what? I'm going to let you introduce yourself.
Fair enough, Clarence. Thank you. Thank you for having me, and thank you to SACE for even considering to bring me along for this opportunity. I love the webinars that SACE does on a regular basis to bring in different subject matter experts, let people tell some of their career journey stories. I've always been able to reflect on some of those and look at some of the commonalities as well of my experiences. So thank you for having me today, and Happy New Year to all of you. For those that I have met and know from Honeywell or other companies via SACE. Good to see you again. And for those that I haven't met in person yet, I look forward to meeting you hopefully at the national conference or through other virtual SACE platforms as well.
Yeah,
So yes,
absolutely.
I do work for Honeywell,
Yeah.
Honeywell Aerospace. I'm a director of engineering, and I've been with the company for about 25 years full time, and I'm based in Phoenix, Arizona. And as we'll talk today, I think with Clarence, we'll talk a little bit about, my career journey, what experiences I've had, the different roles maybe I've taken. So I'm looking forward to the conversation today.
Absolutely. Thank you for Vishkar sharing just a little bit about yourself. Uh, maybe give us a little bit of context as well. I'm going to go ahead and start screen sharing a little bit of your that slide that you had shared with me. But just kind of your background, schooling. Back in the
Sure.
day. When from our STEM Connect we had collegiate students, seeking internships and kind of what that their start of their journey. But what does that start of your journey? What did that look like for you?
Yeah, no, it. I wish I would looked young, but my career journey started very long time ago, back in the late '90s. For those of you who remember that time period, so my biggest concerns at the time were like Y2K, right? Which really didn't become anything. But yeah, I did my undergraduate degree at the University of Arizona in the mid to late '90s, and my engineering journey was not necessarily clear when I started. I kind of knew um, when I was in high school, I was good at math, I was good at science. My dad was an engineer. Um, I would kind of gravitate towards that, and so I started my collegiate journey in the engineering school. But to be kind of quite transparent, as I kind of went through it, I was questioning myself, is this really where I want to be? And so I looked at other majors and things like that. Do I want to pivot to something else? But in the end, my heart stuck with engineering and more specifically mechanical and aerospace engineering. It was an industry that I'd always been really interested in as well. So to have the opportunity to kind of fulfill my collegiate studies in that space was fantastic. Um, I also had the opportunity to do internships, obviously, which many of our SACE collegiate students are always looking for. And part of the reason that I go into conferences to look for those new interns and talent. But it was an, invaluable experience for me as an intern to kind of get a peek behind the curtain, if you will. Um, with universities, you're really focused on projects and your classwork and tests and exams and all that stress. But that internship opportunity, I had two of them in the summers, really enlightened me in terms of what the workforce is like. It's not about exams. It's not about book knowledge. It's really about understanding complex things and being able to work with a lot of different people who all have other, objectives and priorities. So even though it was an internship, just getting that kind of visibility, a preview, if you will, of what it's going to be like, was fantastic. And I was internally grateful for that opportunity.
Yeah, Vishkar, when you talk about the, internships and also what I hear, especially maybe the first couple of ones, working across multiple teams, right? And sometimes multiple managers. I know that, some of the college students talk about rotational programs and stuff. What was your takeaway from that? What did you learn? Did you experience that yourself, or was it pretty seamless?
When I started as an intern, we didn't really have the rotational program, and I think companies are starting to learn how valuable that is. In fact,
Mhm.
ours is already kind of pivoting to that model as well. Um, to be quite honest, it was, hey, you're going to get paired up with a senior engineer. You're going to
Mhm.
follow them around. You're going to ask them a lot of questions. So you kind of get that experience, but it's a little bit more organic, I guess, versus structured.
Yeah.
Um, and so I think in a lot of ways you're going to get it. But I like the idea of having some structure and some format that you can drive some consistency to, right? So you're really not
Exactly.
ending up with a gap in
Yeah.
terms of kind of what you want to pick up.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I have the slide up, that of your journey. Love to kind of, maybe share with this group that timeline, what that looks like. I see a couple of interesting things in the middle of it. So yeah, please share.
Yeah, no problem. When you asked me to talk, I'm like, how do I put like a career on paper and make it like interesting? So, but then as I started doing it, I also realized it's not linear. So I didn't intentionally put it in a straight line either. So there's definitely, some turns along the way. But like I said, I started as an intern with Honeywell in the avionics business and aerospace, and thanks to that, as well as proximity, I was able to land a full-time role when I fully graduated in '99. And at the time, it was Honeywell as a company, and basically, I would say a week later, it was my first introduction to the real world changes a lot, and it changes fast. A week after I got hired, there was an announcement, public announcement, that Allied Signal was going to purchase Honeywell. Now, Allied Signal was another large company, right? Multi-conglomerate. Honeywell was a multi-conglomerate. So I was like not even sure if I had a job, right? I got the offer, I'm ready to start. Do I show up? Like, once I got a badge, is that going to stay the same? So it was really eye-opening, if you will, to like immediately get thrown into the fire of this is how the business works. Things aren't always going to be stable. There's going to be uncertainty. But things settled down, right? Kind of got figured out what was going to happen, and it allowed me to kind of be a good guide in terms of developing my career early. Was be ready for anything, right? And so I started my engineering career doing a lot of different tasks, a lot of, development in terms of just learning our products and our processes. But one thing I really got visibility to too early on, and I'm very fortunate to have had, was a lot of customer experience. I would get thrown into a testing situation with a customer, they're expecting something, having the ability to kind of be a very junior, engineer and interact directly with a customer, was invaluable, right? Because you're learning from their side, their lens of what the expectation is. It's not just what does our company want to do? It's, hey, what does your end customer want to do? So that really laid the groundwork for kind of the rest of my career, to be quite honest. Um, I had other opportunities along the way. You can see here I had an opportunity to do a global assignment. Again, customer focused, right? At the time, I was working with a French customer, Airbus. They were in need of some on-site engineering support, and I was able to raise my hand. They said, "Great, pack your bag, off you go." So that even today has led to friendships and partnerships, both within my company and as well as overseas with our customer, that still carry on today. Which what is that now? 20 years later, right? So
How long were you in France for this project?
not that long, maybe about a quarter, like 2.5 months or so.
Oh, okay.
But it was every day, working. And then obviously when I returned, I was still working with them just remotely. And then I would continue to make periodic trips, over the next few years to kind of help support those programs.
Awesome, awesome. Actually, well, keep going. I think you're you're in '08 now, right?
I'm getting there, yeah, I guess. So I could keep going. So I don't know how many engineers are on the call, or maybe mid to later career, but I think there's a common theme a lot of times where you get to this kind of proverbial fork in the road, where as an engineer you kind of need to decide, you want to stay technical, or do you want to kind of pivot to more of a leadership role, a manager role, organizational role. And as I kind of approached almost a decade of like just true engineering experience, I came to that intersection, and I had some really frank conversations with my boss at the time, because I wasn't really sure how to navigate that part of the my career. And he guided me to say, you know what, if you're really kind of thinking about it, think about getting additional education. And locally, there's a university known for their business programs, particularly in the global sphere, which is aligned with Honeywell in terms of our outreach. So Thunderbird University is where I ended up going to get my EMBA as well. So it was fantastic experience. Out of that, I ended up actually meeting my wife. So it paid for itself in a lot of ways, I like to say. So it was fantastic. Yeah, it was really great, and it really kind of sealed the decision for me to say, you know what? Okay, I think I'm now going to pivot to more of a manager leadership kind of role versus staying technical and becoming a technical subject matter expert.
Mhm.
So that was the
Awesome.
kind of that transition afterwards is kind of what I showed here. Life happens. Like I said, I got married. We had a couple kids. You're trying to figure out how to balance, work. My wife is a full-time professional. Dealing with children and raising them for those that are parents, it's a lot to juggle, right? So, but it's teamwork and you figure it out and you navigate it and it's been fantastic. Um, but all of that kind of combined to, also accelerate myself in terms of growth. As a leader, I spent, kind of the second phase so far, but that career, my career to kind of focus on different development activities. And I took on a lot of projects. And I think you kind of showed one of them on the screen quickly, but I led a lot of different engineering projects to completion, which was really good. I didn't have any direct reports, but I was wholly responsible for the budget, the milestones, the customer commitments, delivering, what our company needed to ensure we had satisfied customers. And so there was a lot of different skills that you had to develop in that kind of part of your career versus straight out of engineering school. Um, I think nowadays you see a lot of students already working on that, which I think is fantastic. Those other skills, right? Um, and then kind of just to kind of wrap it up to where I am now. Now I've kind of moved from those kinds of project engineering activities to more organizational leadership and growth, which has then brought me towards SASE and some of our talent acquisition, talent engagement initiatives that we're running at the company. And now, 2026 starts for us from a Honeywell perspective. It's very exciting because we publicly announced we're doing some separations of the company, similar to I think the gentleman before from GE, Vernova. So Honeywell's kind of also mimicking that. So Honeywell Aerospace it's a one entity, and Honeywell will be a second entity. So a lot of change. Again, just like the beginning, first weekend change, 25 years later, still change.
Well, so it's what it sounds like, right? That one of those takeaways is change is constant, right? And finding some semblance of balance and accommodation, not only in work life, right? With all the change, like I said, change is constant, right? And constantly
Absolutely.
evolving. But in the middle of your timeline there now, finding a partner, starting a family, all of that, and then now balancing that as well as your own personal, endeavors as well, right? So, but thank you for sharing that. I think it's a timeline and a journey that many aspire to follow, right? And a part of this community is, and part of what you kind of alluded to, at STEM Connect, was the opportunity to network and really, be a resource for each other, kind of share each other's, journeys in many ways
Mhm.
there, right? So one of the things, actually, I kind of accidentally went ahead, but you alluded to earlier was your time in France, in Toulouse, right? I think it
Mhm.
was. And let me get over there real quick. This guy, right? So yeah. I want tell me a little bit more about that, right? Because I get the sense that even in the 2.5 months and the relationships that you continue to enjoy, with those folks and your customer there, it sounds like a highlight, right? And so tell us more about that experience. I think that feels like your background picture too.
It's kind of similar, yeah. In fact, the picture you're showing on the screen is kind of a culmination of what started it with that global assignment back in 2004. This picture was back in 2020. When did COVID happen? It was like a month before that,
2020. Yeah.
because I remember I had to fly back. But yeah, so this was 15, 16 years after the start of my initial work with that company, as just a junior engineer. At this point in my career, I was tasked to lead a program which was to take one of our products, our integrated avionics products, which have traditionally been in business regional jets. For the most part, think your Gulfstreams, your Embraers, things like that. For the first time ever, Honeywell was looking to put this on a air transport aircraft. And for those that aren't in aerospace, air transports, your larger aircraft that you're used to. So the things you probably fly on, like an A320, a 787, A350s. What's behind you is actually an A300. And an A300 aircraft is one of the first air transport vehicle from Airbus. and they're quite old, right? But
Mm.
the one good thing about airplanes is as long as you maintain them, they can keep flying. They can fly for 40 years, 50 years. And so UPS had purchased a bunch of these because they didn't need the latest, greatest, body frame, if you will, for an aircraft. They just needed something that was reliable. But they also realized that their pilots were getting younger as experienced pilots started to retire with the that were used to these old avionics that were in these aircraft that were built 30, 40 years ago. They needed to upgrade and modernize for their next generation of pilots. And so they approached Honeywell for, hey, we've heard you've got this product. We'd really be interested. This is something we can do. And so when we signed up saying, yeah, we're ready to do it, because of my experience with Airbus in the past, they tagged me to help lead the engineering activity here. So myself, my other project engineer, and my chief lead system engineer are in this picture. And this was right before they were start their flight test campaign. And so we had an opportunity to go out to the aircraft, take a look at the avionics, check out the install. We didn't get to fly in the test flight, but that's okay. We afterwards, it was a success. We got to, hear about it from the pilots and see kind of what they found out of it, and in the end, be able to certify and deliver this to UPS. So now they have modern avionics for all of their pilots for their A300 fleet today.
Excellent, Avishkar. Does that program continue with other aircraft lines as well?
Yeah, so Honeywell has lots of different products, avionics products, and so we're always looking for different opportunities to put different systems depending on our customer needs. So we do still offer Honeywell Epic systems for a variety of our customers, which many take. We have federated units as well, which are more individual components. And then the next thing that Honeywell is developing is our next gen avionics called Honeywell Anthem. And this is think about, touchscreen, enhanced graphics, different functionalities, things that the market is really looking for, not just now, but, for growth in the future as well. So we have a lot of different options.
Terrific. Yeah, and you make a really good point about, maintaining aircraft and their flight worthiness over many decades, right? And I think it was like last year, we finally retired the 747. I think the last one, right,
Mhm.
took off. But having said that too, you talk about Airbus, and of course the Boeing products, are those adopted across Boeing products as well?
Yeah, we offer different products to Boeing, to Airbus, Pilatus. So it really depends on what their needs are and who their end customers are.
Mhm.
In some cases, right, you have airline operators like your Uniteds, your Hawaiian Airlines, Southwest. They want something. Your cargo carriers might want something else. Those that have business jets, they're looking for maybe some other optionality or more customization. And so it's really depends on the end customer. We have pretty much something for everyone. It
Mhm.
just, partnering with them and making sure that we can give them what they're looking for.
Awesome. Well, we've been focused on obviously aerospace, right, and that landscape, and obviously its evolution since you started, right, back in the early 2000s to where we are now. In terms of technology, maybe workplace culture, career development opportunities, how has that landscape changed in your view, in your experience?
I'm a proud Gen Xer. So and the reason I say that is I know what it was like pre-internet and post-internet. And just um, a tool within the workplace. So nothing specific to engineering per se, but an enabler, right? That we use has really changed how the workforce has developed, in my opinion, since I started. I remember when I got, started my job, you were lucky if you got a desktop computer. If you had a laptop, oh my goodness, like who are you? You must be an executive. Now we all have like mobile phones and tablets and, more devices than we know what to do with. We can connect from anywhere. And I think we've, as a workplace, have tried to figure that out. And it was maybe accelerated during COVID when a lot of people had to go work from home or work remotely. So a lot of the tools have gotten better. In the end of the day, I think at least from an, with engineering, and I imagine most businesses, is that you have to work together, right? And what are the things that you need to do together whether it's in person or virtually, they still need to get done. So tools, whatever, you have to figure out a way to work collaboratively and accomplish things because unlike college where you have like one specific task and you're just doing that one task and not working with anyone, in the real world, everybody's kind of chipping in and doing a lot of different things, wearing a lot of different hats. So um, I've seen that change quite a bit from a kind of technology standpoint. Um, you talk about culture and career development, I think, too, in that question, right?
Yeah, yes, but also, I think about when you talk about different business units, right? You just even what Honeywell may be going through, and GE did, a few years ago, being connected and certainly being aware through, internal networks, internal, business resource groups, right, and all of that
Hmm.
is pretty important, right? Because that awareness and that collaboration, I think, it doesn't feel like, you kind of need to know what the left hand is doing too, right? So that, ultimately, whether it's, towards, the bottom line, or triple net, but also for your customers, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. The point that you make on networks and things like that. I know when I started, it was really hard for me to figure out like how to network within a large company. You're kind of focused with your immediate team. The one thing I've seen kind of really develop over time, and maybe more rapidly the last 10 years, is these employee resource groups or employee networks. And they've been invaluable. I have the pleasure of co-chairing one of them at our company, um, geared towards early career professionals. We call it HYPE, Heighten Your Professional Experience. And in this picture, I've actually got a couple of my colleagues, Lisa Speck and Kenda McKenty, and we all lead, employee resource group, really focused on that early career experience too. So, I reflect on my experience and see, some good things, but I also see a lot of areas to improve. And so what we try and do, and I see this throughout kind of different companies and all the different resource groups, is we're really trying to enable people, right, to make those connections, um, to get to know what everybody's doing, to your point, what's the left hand doing the right hand, um, to be able to see where you want to take your career as well. I think sometimes we forget about that until maybe, after a few years. Um, at least for myself, I know when I started, I was never really thinking about career development. I was thinking just do the job and what's the next job to do. But I think the employee networks are great because you get to find out what do other people do, right? Is
Hmm.
that something that I'm interested in maybe in the future or even just to learn about? Um,
Hmm. Hmm.
and you never know when you might need some help, right? Oh, I have a question. I need to ask somebody in finance. Well, as an engineer, I don't know anybody in finance, but my friend over here, he's an employee network and he knows somebody in finance, he's going to be able to get to that answer quicker. So, there's a lot of, intrinsic benefits, if you will, being in an employee network, but the support that you get from it is, I think, amazing, right? And that's definitely changed.
Well, and this may kind of bleed into kind of another question that I had about, some challenges that engineers, as a general population face, kind of skills or mindsets that you think are essential for them to navigate, through their career, and things that they may not, like you said, kind of may not even been thinking about, right? Whether they're early or mid.
Mhm. Yeah, I think that's it probably varies a little bit based on personality as well, and maybe even culturally. Um, I would say, at least for myself, I'm not speaking for like the whole Asian culture, obviously, but I was kind of raised with the mindset of, put your head down, do your job, get it done, do a great work, and you'll get recognized, and then, good things will happen, right? I kind of realized that a little later in my career that really doesn't always work, right? You have to be an advocate for yourself, and not in a pompous way or you're trying to sell, something. It's really just, stand by what you've done, make sure people know, the right people know what you've done, right? And make sure that they know you're willing to take on a different challenge or opportunity. So from I guess a skill set or, you know, mindset, I would say for early engineers, keep that in your mind, right? Yes, you are focused on doing a great job, initially, but also learn to kind of be your own self-advocate because no one else is really going to do it for you, right?
Right.
Um, you don't have a college counselor to be your advocate. Your parents aren't at work, right? Like nobody's gonna really, toot your horn. So you got to do a
Right,
little of that yourself
right.
as well. And then the other thing I would say is maybe what I've personally been seeing is just have some patience, right? I think
Mhm.
everybody is really excited when they start and they want to, do everything all at once. And that's really hard to do. And it's not a sprint, right? Your career is going to be really long and very fruitful. So take the time, like when you're working on a certain project or you're developing a skill in a new role, take the time to like really work on it and try and master it as much as you can before you just jump to the next thing. I think sometimes we get into a mindset of, you know, we fear we're going to miss out on a promotion or a different role because you've been in this role for X amount of months or whatever. And I think sometimes we have overcorrected in that direction. So finding that right balance, being patient in whatever the role you have now, and then also looking forward, right, as you advocate for yourself and develop the skills you have, find that next role that you can now develop a new skill.
Yeah, you touched on a couple of things that bring the STEM Connect thing back to mind. We have the collegiate conference, right, and the professional
Hmm.
conference, and the trainers and workshops that we had at the pro conference, and we'll probably do very similar things this year as well. Talk about that self advocacy, right, and that level of awareness where we tend to say balancing our values and the families we grew up with, where to try to be humble and not boastful, and I sometimes we say humble bragging, right, kind of
Hmm.
thing, but it's really important, especially in the multinational companies that we all work for, right? And so those are topics that we continue to address, right? Not only at the pro conference, but some of the other things that we do throughout the year. And so kind of transitioning into STEM Connect, um, like you kind of mentioned in the introduction that you now spend some time focusing on talent, right?
Hmm.
And looking at, for young folks who are earlier career opportunity engineers who are moving into this, what qualities, right? What characteristics does your team look for, right? In those folks, and how does that parlay into folks who are 5 to 10 years into their careers?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And to your point on the trainers and the topics that are offered at STEM Connect, you're so right, right? Like taking an opportunity to leverage those and work on some of these other skills that maybe you don't have an opportunity to or just become aware of them is fantastic. At STEM Connect, we're always excited to be there. The excitement of the university. Oh yeah, here's university students is great. The different companies that are there and all of their teams, always great to network and share stories with as well. So these are some funny photos with some of my core team leaders. We were trying to goof around and put a challenge together for the rest of our Honeywell team is to take some funny selfies at your photo booths. But no, the students that we come across, the ones that I think really stand out are the ones that kind of have a sense of curiosity, but also a willingness to learn. And so, kind of what I mean by that is, this could be reflected in conversation that you have with them, an interview. It could be reflected on a resume. There's a lot of different ways to kind of maybe get some insights into it. But who are the ones that are really looking to do a lot of different things, right? They're naturally curious. They're self-driven, self-motivated. Nobody told them, "Hey, you got to go do this." I remember one student at this conference, in fact, that I met. He didn't get a summer internship somewhere one summer, and instead he partnered with a local community and identified that there was some sort of medical device, that needed to be created to help people in his community. And I don't remember the exact specifics behind it, but I just thought, oh wow, this individual, you know, created an opportunity for himself, right? He didn't land wherever he wanted to land. He didn't just sit at home playing video games or, do whatever. He went out into the community, took the initiative, found out what the people wanted, right? What the customer wanted, and he went and go create a solution for them, right? So I thought that, that's just really great. It wasn't his area of expertise. He had to develop learn a new coding language, I remember, for this product. Um, th those kinds of things just show that you're willing to grow and learn. And I guess maybe that's why I say kind of curiosity, right? Because inherently to that is your willingness to kind of grow. Um, we never know everything, right? We're always continuously learning. So I look for that kind of behavior and mindset, personally. Uh, when I'm looking at different candidates and stuff. Are you willing to kind of just stretch yourself and continue to develop and grow?
Well, and I think about, folks, who have been in the careers for a while, right? And like you said, learning is constant. You don't know everything, right? And so I I appreciate that sense of curiosity, right? And maybe asking, colleagues, managers, right? It's like what could you learn, right? Or pick up skills in addition that that helps you grow, but also helps impact, right, the business unit,
Hmm.
right? So
Yeah,
I think those, kinds of characteristics and qualities, that level of curiosity should carry through, right, across your career, right?
absolutely. Absolutely.
And so what, 25 years in, right, Vishkar?
Yep.
Like you said, right, talking to college candidates, at the career fair and those kinds of things. It's always fun to hear those stories, but if I think we're on a theme here, but what would you tell your younger self, right? If you were that candidate at Honeywell.
Oh man, I have children, right? So and I'm like, oh my goodness, what the students now have to go through to, find a job in the workplace is so different than when I was looking,
Sure,
right?
sure.
I had a conversation yesterday actually with a personal friend of mine. His daughter's, in university. She's in engineering, and he's not in engineering, so he's just kind of curious how the process works. And so when I was explaining to him, he kind of joked the same thing. It's like, oh my goodness, like this is so different. But if I told myself back then, all right, going back, and I kind of touched on it earlier, was um, being that self promoter, that self advocate. And part of it is like not just the personality part, right? The being extroverted or anything like that. Part of it is just knowing what you want to do, right? They give you the confidence then to go ask. So, yes, you're going to do a great job. You're going to work hard. That's great. You want to make sure you communicate that. But just as importantly, you also have to communicate what you want. Because in big companies, I imagine like this, most places, nobody above you or in other organizations knows what you want, right? So if you want that program management role or you want to go into HR or whatever, right? Like if you want to pivot into something different, work with this customer, you have to make sure that your manager knows, that your network knows, right? So again, back to the employee resource groups, leverage your personal network at the company and outside the company so they know, right? Because what happens at the end is those connections matter. They help connect those dots to help you get to what you want. And likewise to reciprocate, right? Leverage your network, find out what your colleagues are looking to do. And if you see there's a connection or an opportunity, to make that connection with someone else, then enable that, right? So I think that's maybe kind of the advice I'd give my younger self. Don't kind of be in that little foxhole, if you will, just focused on, staying alive and doing your job and all that. You got to kind of put your head out and you got to see what else is happening and get out there.
Yeah. And it takes courage to do that, right? It's
Mhm.
kind of getting outside that comfort level.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, let's kind of move on here. Outside of work, right? So, we've been talking work and career. What keeps you grounded and inspired? Do you have community things that you do? I believe you're, in the Phoenix area, right? And
Yes.
so, do you do, tell us, share, maybe a little bit more personal stuff with you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. One of the great things about our employee networks here is that we do a lot of community outreach. And so the one that I help lead for the early career professionals, that's really important to our membership base. So we always are looking for opportunities to make an impact. And it's always a great way to also meet other people that work, both with you and also maybe that have similar community interests as well. So we've had an opportunity to do a lot of great things, whether it's at food banks, tree planting events. One thing that in the Phoenix area we're really about is some of our partnerships with our sports franchises and schools districts in the area. So we partner with Arizona Diamondbacks. So this was I think it was 2 years ago, opening day. They asked some of their partners to come and set up and talk a little bit about the companies as fans were getting excited for the return of baseball. So it was really cool just to meet, people, fans. It's not like we're not actively recruiting. We're not like interviewing anybody. We just want to let people know, hey, we're in the community. We're here to help. We brought our drone, as you can see in this picture. This weekend, in fact, I'm going to, there's a big car show in Phoenix called the Barrett-Jackson Car Show. And so we're doing a STEM event there. In fact, we partner with them. So Honeywell's going to go out. We take, 20, 30 volunteers and we talk to kids, right? So this is a family day. They get to bring kids in to see all the fancy, cool cars. There's no, bidding or anything. It's just an opportunity for them to kind of walk around and we get to be out there and excite kids about STEM opportunities, right? Jobs in the field. You don't necessarily have to be an engineer. There's lots of different opportunities, but just encourage kids to know that they have that as an option, right? As they grow up and they go through their, their schooling and pick electives and things like that. We really want them to know that it is, attainable. It is something fun and that there's a lot of cool things you can do. And so I really enjoyed those kinds of events, and I'm looking forward to the one this weekend as well. I try and bring my kids and my wife when I can to some of these events as well. I think it's really important to instill that sense of service with our children. So my wife is a big proponent of that. She's done a lot of work in the refugee space as well. So it's always important for us to expose our next generations, if you will, to the power of community and the impact that we can make.
Well, and I appreciate that, inherently, and perhaps unintentionally, we serve as role models in our community, whether it's at church or scouting or, here, some of the things that you just mentioned, and to point also, not only do, young people, look at us as role models, right? Oh my God, this guy is, he's an engineer. He's been with Honeywell for years and years, natural born leader, right? And all of that stuff. And it hopefully inspires them right into their career journey. But one of the things that's also, really important too, that you kind of mentioned, right? Bringing your children to events like this and I'm sure just like with my children, right? They see us as, role models, right? What is dad doing, right? And how has your experience, growing up with your family now as a parent influenced, your work in leadership, work at Honeywell, leadership in the community. And, what does that look like for you? How do you balance that?
Yeah, no, it's interesting because I'm thinking about how different the experience has been for my parents versus myself and my wife. Um, my parents immigrated from England to the U.S. And then I was born in the U.S. And so their experience was very, very unique and different than mine, right? So everything that they did, I watched, right, as a kid, how they had to kind of, make their presence, establish their presence, work really hard, claw away at some of the barriers that they encountered to really make sure that they provided, for my sister and I, and gave us everything we needed, right, in terms of education and ability to do different things. And so I really appreciate and value that. And the thing now is like, how do I instill that same appreciation with my children, right? It's a lot easier for them now. I hate to say it, right? So, yeah, I know every generation says, "Oh, it was, if it was like back into my day, it'd be totally different." But no, I think there's some truth to that. So that comes to the point of, keeping that mindset and the forefront when I'm trying to, we're raising our children, the things we want them to do, we want them to appreciate. It may not be to the same level, but we want to expose them to as many different things as possible, as well. So they do have a better understanding of the world because I think that's it's really easy to feel like you know everything if you just stay in your own little bubble. You have to kind of, expand and get exposed to a lot of different things. And so I think I'm rambling a little bit, but the point is that my children and our family, we're really trying to instill a sense of appreciation for hard work, for your community, for the people that you have to work with, and you have to value everyone's opinion, right? You can't just be the know-it-all. You have to bring folks together, develop a consensus, do what's best for all is whenever you can.
Well, I think it's also, some of the things that I've been able to share, with, the college students I have the pleasure of working with,
Mhm.
my children as well, is that, we are so much more connected and, have so many things in common than we do differences, right? And so,
Yeah.
whether it's in England, whether it's in China, or across other parts of the globe, I struggle to, you can't tell me that you don't want the best for your children, right?
Mhm.
And guiding them, especially in such a connected world that we're in these days, right? And so that, yes, that this generation has its own challenges in that sense, but we I think it's a lot of fun, and I think you would agree, right, that we have so much more in common that we can share, right, across cultures, across communities, right,
Mhm.
and even in our professional careers, just that alignment and connection with all the things that I think drives us for all the passions that we enjoy, right, and so I really
Absolutely.
appreciate you sharing a little bit of insight with your family, some of the things that you're doing within your own community, and the work that you do and continue to support through SACE. So I really appreciate that opportunity. Because we've been actively doing this, I have not been monitoring chat or any questions so I wanted just to take a quick opportunity. If there are anybody who want to come off mute and ask Vishkar any specific things with respect to his journey, please come off mute, come on camera. We'll take a minute there to answer any questions there.
I had a quick question. Oh, you could go ahead.
No, I was just gonna have you, Yana, if you can, just maybe even come on camera so we can spotlight you. That'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Sure. Let me get that set up. If you, one second.
Thank you.
Can
Thank
you guys
you.
see me?
Yeah.
All right. So I was wondering, thank you for sharing today. That was really insightful. You mentioned that you had that route when you chose either a more technical or managerial path, and you went managerial.
Mhm.
I'm an early career engineer, but I'm aspiring to grow into a people leadership role one day. And I was wondering what skills or mindsets should I start developing now that might not be as emphasized in purely technical roles?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. And I also want to maybe clarify too that I don't think you have to be a manager by title to be a leader. I think you can lead in a lot of different ways, right? So I didn't want to make it sound like if you stayed on the technical side and became a technical expert, you're not a leader. You are absolutely a leader, right? And so I just want to make that clarification. But I think there's a lot of opportunities as an engineer to build those skills. The way I personally kind of develop some of them, I look for opportunities to maybe dabble in a little bit of project management, right? Figuring out what are the tools that project managers use, what are the tools my manager uses to plan and coordinate different activities. I wouldn't necessarily take it on like full time, but I wanted just exposure so that it wasn't completely foreign, right? If I was going to pivot into that direction. The other opportunity is always looking to report out on things. at my company at least, there's a hierarchy, right? It's a matrix organization, but it's hierarchy, and there's a lot of opportunities to be visible in front of various levels of leadership. And so, as an engineer, I think that those opportunities exist as well. And so, if they are, I would highly encourage you to take advantage of some of those to practice and develop. What is your communication style? What is your ability that you want to work on in terms of presenting information, whether it's up the organization or also down the organization, right? Because it might be different, and very likely will be. So I look at as an engineer, there's lots of different ways than just doing your quote unquote day job. It's how do you present that information? How do you engage in the organization as you do your job?
Great
Thank you so
question.
much.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks for the
Thanks,
question.
Anna. Are there others who wanted to chime in and ask Avishkar a question? Okie dokie. This, as you probably saw, is also being recorded. I will get this up on our website for future playback and reference. Fishkar, I wanted to thank you for this opportunity just to share some insights. There are a lot of takeaways and nuggets from your experience. Really appreciate you taking the time to share that experience with this group. Like I mentioned, I will be scheduling other fireside chats throughout the year. So please come. We've been refreshing our saseconnect.org website. And in that website, now on the professional side, we should be launching a couple of things on the webpage just to be on the lookout for. I wanted to share with you a couple of things that are coming up on radar. March the 6th, which is a Friday, we are launching our inaugural Experienced Hire Professional Career Fair. So, not to say that, Honeywell's going to be going, actively searching this group, but the opportunity has presented itself. There's a healthy amount of interest in having a professional-focused virtual career fair. So that'll be up on our website very shortly. Registration for that. Please share with your friends and colleagues who may be, looking for new opportunities. So we're really excited to be a part of that. Honeywell is actually going to be one of our exhibitors, so we're really excited for that. Additionally, in April, at the end of April, April 24th, we will be hosting our Lotus Leadership Conference. That'll also be a one-day virtual. It used to be called the Women's Leadership Conference. We've actually kind of redesigned the program a little bit to be even more inclusive and welcoming to all groups and individuals within the STEM professional community. So be on the lookout for that up on our website. We, within this group here, will also be resuming our professional employee network meetings. So look for that. All of those communications I sent out using our SASE professional newsletter, but also my targeted, professional engagement network points of contact. So if you are interested in, if you're not already on that list, please reach out to me. I'm at Clarence.Low, L-O-W, at saseconnect.org. And I'd be happy to connect with you and your groups as well for that. And again, just wanted to thank everybody here for your time. And Avishkar, once again, for sharing some of his really insightful and wisdom with this group. So thank you so much again.
Thank you.
Yeah, Avishkar, and on behalf of SASE and Honeywell, I wanted to thank this group as well. So have a wonderful rest of the day, and please be in touch with any questions that you have.
Thank you. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.